Here's the deal. Politics should not be a zero-sum game, but tragically, that's exactly what it's become. And it's polluted the whole nature of our politics. The point of politics should not be about doing maximum damage to your opponents just to win, because all that's happened, as has in the case of our current America, is that people get hurt and nothing gets done. So my stance yesterday, my vote, was opting out of this zero-sum game mindset and back into one of negotiation and compromise. We're stuck right now in this terrible scenario where everyone is trying to exact maximum hurt from their opponent for a quote-unquote win. My present vote was not passive. It was an active protest against the terrible fallout of this zero-sum mindset that the two opposing political parties have trapped America in. There's no winning here. Everyone is losing. Our country is losing. So if we don't break this stalemate we find ourselves in, America's done for. My vote and my campaign for president is about freeing our country from this damaging mindset so that we can work side by side to usher in a brighter future for all Americans.
You know, the more I think about this, the less I like it. Tulsi Gabbard votes present, of course, in the impeachment hearings. And the vote of present, for the most part, every Democrat went along with impeaching Trump on both articles, with the exception of, I think, two. Two voted nay. But Gabbard got a lot of attention for voting present on this. A, she's in the Democratic primary, meaning she's running in the race. Democrats are hysterical about the whole impeachment thing, so the notion of not voting yes, I mean, you can look at the fact that all of them fell in line on this vote. So her not giving a yay, not giving an A, yay, or for that matter, even giving a nay, drew a bit of ire from the various people in the party. You're not towing the party line. And B, you're not taking a choice, or you're not making a choice. You're essentially voting, you're punting. Now, I don't like this choice, but it's a rational choice. I hope you understand what I mean. She says she's voting against the hyperpartisanship and that type of thing. So you weren't voting on the impeachment articles. This seems like a yes or no. Do you agree that Donald Trump should be impeached? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, you vote with the Democrats. If the answer is no, you vote no. Now that seems to be the principal choice. If you're going to say that this is based on principle, then this person is untethered to all of this other stuff. I think she's a rational actor. And I think she's a rational actor in a competitive game space. A game space, mind you, that doesn't end when 2020 ends. Meaning, the things that she's doing right now is building herself somewhat of a coalition. These coalitions are necessary to win races and to excel in politics. She has an odd coalition on the left and on the right. Cuts both ways with this anti-war stuff. And so, voting present was all she could do. If she votes yes, it burns one part of her coalition. If she votes no, it burns her with the Democratic Party. Her race is effectively over. Voting present was the rational choice. Now, you heard her give her reasoning for it. And by the way, what she said here is not wrong. Everything that she said here is right, in the sense of the hyperpartisanship and everything else. Let's not remind you, the Democratic Party wasn't allowed to put their Supreme Court pick in because the Republican Party, for the most part, just nullified that process. And were willing to do it because they assumed that Hillary Clinton was going to win in perpetuity. Some even questioning whether you even need to add additional members on the Supreme Court. I mean, they impeached Bill Clinton, and I don't need to show you the Russiagate nonsense and the hysteria that Democrats have had about Trump and Russia and impeaching him from day one. She's right about the hyperpartisanship. I don't know how to fix that. And voting present, I don't know if that's going to do it. You could have made that statement without voting present. I mean, ultimately, the impeachment was either yes or no. You punted. Again, rational choice. It's not for me. It doesn't matter if I like it or dislike it. Whether I liked it or disliked it, of course, hysteria and anger was going to come from her party. This is Jay Paul.
Not a smart choice for her politically, and I don't know how she could do that at the same time that she's running for president. If she can't make a decision about whether to vote yes or no on these articles of impeachment, I'm not sure how she intends to make those decisions in the White House. I thought that was disappointing. I like Tulsi Gabbard, but I thought that was very disappointing and, frankly, a cop-out. You know, these votes are votes of courage. They're votes of conscience. And I think that every single one of us, regardless of our districts, regardless of the politics, has to think about the oath that we swore to the Constitution and to the country when we took office. And I don't think people are looking for a present vote at this moment.
Well, notice what Jay Paul said. Cop out, disappointing. Well, you could be disappointed. I mean, fair enough. Lack of courage. This gets to this issue of cowardice. Because the thing that's being thrown around is cowardice. This was a cowardly vote. You had the opportunity to pick a side and you didn't choose. And it's not even picking a side. You're answering a very basic question. Do you agree with impeachment or not? It doesn't seem like she agreed with impeachment. It doesn't, honestly, from her position, waffled on this as it went along, she was being pushed from the currents of the election. At one point, she was a no. At one point, she was a yes. And at this point, she was a punt. Again, rational choice. And I say rational choice. I don't mean that as a dig. I mean that just as a rational actor in a contest making choices that are in their best interests. So you can imagine this is also not going to go over well. Tulsi Gabbard is on Rising. Krista Ball's co-host asked her a question about the withholding the articles of impeachment. Because as you just to point out, Nancy Pelosi, after impeaching Trump on the 2 articles, overreach and obstruction of justice, she refused to send those articles to the Senate. Do you know how it tells you the jig is up? When you impeach the President of the United States, but in your capacity as the House, refuse to send the articles over to the Senate because you don't control the Senate. And you want to be able to reach your hands into a body of Congress that you don't control. And because that body of Congress don't give you that control, you withhold the articles of impeachment. I have no idea why she thinks this has any political pressure on Mitch McConnell at all. If anything, this just looks sad. You've impeached the president in a hyper-partisan process. You had complete control of space, matter, and time in the House of Representatives. You got what you wanted. Send it to the Senate. Nancy Pelosi knows that they're going to pull a bullet in it. And they're going to kill it dead. And all of this is going to be over and Trump is going to run on it. Let's hear Tulsi answer this question about what do you think about Nancy Pelosi not sending the articles of impeachment over to the Senate?
If they don't think that that process is fair, does that make it just a blatantly political statement from the very beginning? If they don't end up transmitting that, what message does that send about this entire process?
Yeah, I was surprised to hear that. Look, I think that you can't kind of just shift and change and make up the rules as you go along. If you're going to pursue this process, you've got to let it play out the whole way through. Again, I think that the hyper-partisan nature that we've seen throughout this whole thing, and again, this is not just on the part of the Democrats. You see on those who are defending Donald Trump, you see a blind loyalty to their party's leader, people who are proclaiming that, yes, of course, Trump, what he did was quote unquote perfect, nothing wrong. They're not exercising their responsibility to the American people in providing legitimate oversight. On the Democratic side, you see such extreme language being used, basically accusing the president of treason without actually saying the word, and tainting, therefore, any possibility of a truly impartial fact-finding inquiry.
That's true. That's true. I mean, whatever you want to think about the vote and everything else, that's true. And just so you can see what we mean by this, Clyburn went so far as to say they may never transmit it. They may never. Think about what we're saying. They go through the hassle of impeaching the President of the United States. All of this drama, all of these witnesses screaming and crying about the Ukraine and dragging them before the American public. And the American public watches and they're 50-50. Essentially where they were in the election, meaning The Democratic Party didn't really change minds on that. People might have thought Trump was corrupt, but it's a secondary thing of whether you should take him out of office. And to make the point of 50-50, those are independents also. Democrats, yes, they think he's guilty in spades. They want him out of office. Everybody else is like, you let Bush off, but yeah, this is the thing that needs to be impeached. But this goes beyond that. Pelosi impeaches Trump. You got what you wanted. But you don't want to send the articles to the Senate? Explain, Cleverin.
To many people, when the House Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, suggested that she might wait to transmit the approved articles of impeachment to the Senate, which could possibly delay the Senate trial. I want you to listen to what she said last night. Delay transmitting the articles of impeachment and also sending over the House managers. Listen to this.
We cannot name managers until we see what the process is on the Senate side, and I would hope that that will be soon, as we did with our legislation, our Resolution 660, to describe what the process would be. So far, we haven't seen anything that looks fair to us, so hopefully it will be fair, and when we see what that is, we'll send our managers.
Why the delay, Congressman?
Well, delay is made necessary because the majority leader of the Senate has made it very clear that he's not going to be impartial, he's not going to be fair, he will collude, if you please, with the White House, at least the White House's attorneys, in order to decide how he will go forward. Why would the Speaker of the House step into that without trying to determine exactly what the majority leader plans to do? So I applaud her for this. In fact, I was one of the ones arguing that this ought to be the case. And until we can get some assurances from the majority leader that he is going to allow for a fair and impartial trial to take place, we would be crazy to walk in there knowing he's set up a kangaroo court.
How long are you willing to wait?
As long as it takes.
Indefinitely. They went through an impeachment. Understand what takes place here. Nancy Pelosi had complete control of the House. Mitch McConnell didn't get a say in what took place in the House of Representatives from the standpoint of the way they pursued that case. Again, I thought this was extraordinarily hyperpartisan, so I don't necessarily blame Tulsi Gabbard for making this particular pitch and this particular argument. And again, she has a point. Here's the catch. Some Democrats may hate Tulsi for this vote. They may call her cowardly. They can call her whatever they want. She's a rational actor making a rational choice. Why on earth would she burn herself for the Democratic Party with one of the other bases that have been somewhat kind to her from the standpoint of a party that was not? There's no upside to her voting yes. There's no upside. You guys hate her. You're not going to hate her any less for her voting yes. Also, whatever you think of her, you've allowed her this lane to run. Think of it in this way. People have this, again, I say coalition. But in building this coalition, you kind of want to grow that coalition. In Tulsi Gabbard's case, this kind of weird left-right coalition going along with this thing of anti-war, I don't necessarily know how that works. I think it's going to fracture the moment any issue come up just like this. She's not going to be able to punt on every issue that comes up to her between these two coalitions. But nevertheless, she's growing it. The fact that the Democratic Party has been so hyper-partisan on this allows this. This is kind of like Brexit, where Boris Johnson or Labour abandons the referendum. And because Labour abandons the referendum, Boris Johnson can get into a microphone and yell at the height of his lungs that he's the guy pushing for freedom and democracy and upholding the will of the public, and Labour is not. Well, that lane is only allowed because the other party allowed that lane. I'm saying her taking this argument of this hyperpartisanship needs to stop, we need to tone it down, and I have this kind of left-right coalition that kind of makes that argument work that much more. That lane is only allowed because of the two parties allow it, but particularly the Democratic Party. In particular, the Democratic Party. Don't misunderstand me. The moment you have a Democratic president, that shit's going to flip. But right now, this is coming from, then I can't say I disagree with her. I don't like the present vote, but I can't say I disagree with the rationality behind it. Like, share, subscribe. Yeah, she was damned if she did, damned if she didn't. There was no safe ground for her. Present is the only safe ground. I guess my issue here, and I understand her point. And look, it's possible, and it seems that she wasn't on board for the whole impeachment thing anyway. So there was that. I mean, her original position was no. It seemed like she got dragged to the position of yes, after which she kind of flipped to this position of present. So I can't say that this is not necessarily a principled position. By the same token, you can't say that I'm wrong, that this was just a person being a rational actor in a political process. It's possible those two things dovetail, but present, in a political sense, was her best bet. But unsatisfying. I mean, like, you have a major vote. Do you want to impeach the president or not? Yay or nay? Yes or no? I mean, it's the middle ground on this vote doesn't exist per se. I mean, it's not it's like a bit of logic. Is 1 greater than 2? Yes. It's kind of like that. Do you think he should be impeached? Yes or no? And if you hit yes, it's I agree with the impeachment articles. Yes, the legal text that's there. She pushes for censure. Good. That means that you don't agree with the impeachment articles. But she didn't vote no. This is why I don't agree with the principal argument, that she's taking a principal position. I think it's a rational position. The principal position on this is, no, I don't agree with impeachment articles. I think it's hyperpartisan. But she would never vote no. She would never vote no. You can disagree with me on this. You know, I'm not saying political cowardice. I'm saying she's just a rational actor making rational choices in a political space, trying to grow a coalition into the future. Not that she's just this, you know, entirely principle. I don't buy that. She's in politics. Paul BSO, I disagree, Jamal. Fair enough. It takes tremendous courage to oppose your party. Oh, I didn't call her a coward. No, I didn't call her a coward. I never called her a coward. The principal position is yes, the political position is present. Yes, I agree with you that the political position is present, Trudy. I disagree with you that the principal position is yes. The principal position is dependent upon how you're looking at the world. The principal position, for me, would be no. This is hyperpartisan. This is a witch hunt. My answer is no. Now, Tulsi says, I think they should censor him. Good. Then that also means your answer is no. I don't agree with impeachment. I think we should censure. I hope you understand what I mean when I say there is no middle ground. It's yay or nay. Yes, technically you could vote present, but this is somewhat of a legal question almost. Do you agree with this? Yes, I agree with this. No, I don't agree with this. I don't know where the middle ground comes in with this. Honestly, I just don't. But, yeah, you can call it nuance. Fair enough. Just vote no if that's how you feel. Look, it is not easy to vote present. That's why I don't think it's a cowardly vote. Voting present is still a difficult vote. Every other Democrat voted, for the most part, yes, with the exception of 2 Democrats. Tulsi voted present. That is a difficult vote to make. So the cowardly thing I don't think applies. Their argument of cowardly is you don't want to burn one or the other. And so you choose present in order to not vote either. Now, yes, she's pushing back against her party, but her party already hates her. I guess this is my issue with the whole... Look, I still say politically there's no upside to Tulsi voting yes. I think present is a political vote. I think she's just a rational actor. Principle, maybe. But do you agree with impeachment? Yes or no? It's like, I'm in between. Yeah, I mean, that's an option, but is that the option you really want to choose? The answer would be no, and then put forth your censure. Right. Yeah. The more I think about this, the more I disagree with her. The more I disagree with the position that this is entirely principled. I don't know if I disagree with that. I mean, I don't know if I agree with that. Maybe, perhaps, potentially, but I would call it rational. I think rational makes more sense. Sanders has far more of a track record engaging in political games than Tulsi. Well, considering he is like 3 times her age, yeah, I think he would. I think he would, just by definition. Like, share, subscribe.